It's our societal standard to speak to a lot of our strengths, or to all of our strengths, isn't it? If you really think about it, when's the last time you really looked at your weaknesses? Have you even identified what they are? If you haven't, it's okay. A lot of us haven't because our society is so heavily dependent upon our strengths. What are you strong at? What's your strong suit? Show them your strong side. Even if you're taking pictures, you want to show them your best side. You don't want to look at the side that you may not think is the best. So let me ask you before we get started, what are your weaknesses? Or let me switch it up. What are your opportunities? What are your areas of improvement? You see how if you switch it up, it doesn't sound as bad. Somehow or somewhere along the line, weaknesses have been deemed as something that makes you less than. But if we really look at what the Word of God says, God does his best work in our weaknesses. Let's go to the Word. I'm going to read out of 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 9 through 10. I'm coming from the NIV. Verse 9 says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me." Verse 10, it says, "That is why, for Christ's sakes, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. For when I am weak, then I am strong." That sounds contradictory, doesn't it? For when I am weak, then I am strong. How can that be? There's a strength in admitting your weaknesses. Paul was talking about, he had mentioned that he had an affliction, or there was a thorn in his side. A lot of theologians say that it was some sort of disability that Paul had. And he wanted Christ he cried out 3 times to God to take this affliction away. And I don't know about you, has there been something in your life where you felt like, God, take this away. God, take this away. You just continually ask him, and it seems like it doesn't go unanswered. Well, right in verse 9, it says, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness." God's power is perfect because it allows for us to admit that we don't have it on our own. The times that we're trying to do the things in our lives, the times that we're continually saying things in terms of us having it all by ourselves, we got it. What we're saying without saying, we're telling God, I don't need you. We're not saying it explicitly, but implicitly we are saying that. We're saying that we don't need God. God does his best work in our weaknesses. So that's why Paul says he delights in weaknesses. Have we found delight in weaknesses? I'm telling you now, that's an area of improvement for myself. And insults, so when people insult you, and hardships, when money's tight, when bills aren't getting paid the way you want, and persecutions, when people talk about you, and difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong. There's strength in admitting your weaknesses, but there's also lack of opportunity for God to use you the way that he wants to use you, or work through you the way he wants to work through you, when you can't admit that there's something that you're not good at. This public speaking thing, I don't know how good I am at this. I may have a lot of opportunities, but in those opportunities is when God's strength comes through me, which is what verse 10 is saying at the end. It says, "For when I am weak," when I can admit that I'm weak, when I say that, hey, I used to have a fear of public speaking, and from time to time it pops back up. When I talk to God and say, God, I'm nervous right now. Lord, I don't know what to say before this camera comes on. I don't know what to say before I walk into a session of he said, she said. I don't know what to say when someone comes up to me and they tell me something that I have no idea or experience about. When I come to God in those moments, that's when he's able to operate through me, because there's no way I would be able to do it without him. It's time for us to put that pride to the side and say, God, I need you. This is a situation that I've never experienced, or this is a situation that I completely am terrible in. It's time for us to continue to realize, and if we haven't done so already, it's time for us to realize that God's strength is made perfect. It says, my power is made perfect in weakness. I don't know about you. I want that power of God because it's perfect when I say I'm not enough. Because when I say I'm not enough, I know I serve a God, and we all serve a God that is more than enough, that can give you more than enough to do what it is that He's called you to do. So when I ask you the question again, what are your weaknesses? What will you say?